everyone, a blessed morning. And I feel very inadequate, talking to many architects here, but I'd like to caution you that I'm not an architect, I'm more of an economist. So my point of view is always from the perspective of development. So I think the topics that were given to you were really very helpful with regards to the area of recording documentation. But beyond that, I think I'll be skipping like 2 steps before you reach this particular stage of overall conservation, safeguarding of our heritage. And heritage here is being dealt of as something that's very, very encompassing. No? So the title of our presentation is PAMANARAAN, the House of Heritage, the Brutal Reality of Conservation in the Philippines. This is a very freshly prepared talk for this morning, so I'll try to pilot this to all of you. So I hope you can bear with me and try to understand what I'm really trying to say. So we have 2 words here that we combine, no? Pamanaraan. So pamana and paraan. So I always use this definition of heritage, and if you value from the past, it's valuable and meaningful, and it gives us identity and community to the present, and inspires a future generation. So first thing, this definition is it's a time continuum. When you talk of heritage, you should have encapsulated already the past, the present, the future. It's not of the present. In saying heritage, there's already that assumption. It's a priori that you are in a time continuum. The next one is that word value. It's valuable, it's meaningful, it's significant. Now, who determines this? That's up to you. Valuation systems are very relative. No? Whatever is valuable to your barangay may not be valuable to the whole city, may be valuable. So the value of Notre Dame may be valuable to the whole world, but the value of the Rizal Monument in Catalogan with 3 nude males may not be as valuable as to the French. So these are things that are very relative. Now, valuation is one whole topic, it's one whole semester that you have to discuss. Paraan, of course, it's a logical sequence of tasks performed that you are objective. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is this. Heritage is not just an end point, it's a process. And there are certain tasks, there are certain milestones, there are certain highlights that you have to be able to meet, some basics, before you move on to the next stage. Okay na lang. Okay na yan. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay. So, this is something that maybe would introduce all of us. The idea of conservation. The history of conservation can be taken to be as long as humanity. The modern world, it was part of the process where one learns not to repeat mistakes and instead recognize successes, taking this as references of improvement. So when you do heritage, documentation, actual analysis, actual restoration, implementation, it's a whole process, no? And that whole spectrum of layering actions, that is what you call conservation. So Yukayo Pereto is, of course, a very famous author of the history of conservation, and this is like the Bible of many conservation architects. If you look at the diagram for when you define heritage, very often we talk of heritage, we just talk of the tangible and movable part, the one that was discussed to you first. And there are other types of heritages, like in the World Heritage Site, we classify as natural and cultural heritage. But there's also a liminal space between the two, like for example, cultural landscape. It's the interaction of the environment and the people. So you don't know exactly where the timeline, where the line begins, where the line ends. If, as of now, taxonomically, we're very comfortable at classifying heritage as the tangible and intangible. Then the tangible classified as movable and movable. But actually now they're trying to look at it that even the natural sites would also have the same classification.
for example, intangible. Because there are certain terminologies that define intangibles in nature. So for example, yung idea nyo na aliwalas, that's actually intangible. But it tells you about spaciousness, cleanliness, being refreshed, you can breathe. That's not captured there, it's captured here. No? So even the sounds of the bamboos, no? That's intangible. So ito ang convenient way of looking at it. This is very static. Now, if you look at the context of all this, in fact, I was very surprised because when I saw the audience, sabi ko, ang lahat pala interesado sa heritage. During our time, like 30 years ago, you could barely gather people to come to heritage seminars and heritage talks. And if you look at all these conditions that surfaced just at the turn of the century, so international, there were enabling conditions, local, there were enabling conditions, and even related conditions. So internationally, we're very, very visible, internationally, because of the World Heritage Sites. In fact, the Philippines have the World Heritage Committee, that powerful committee that decides on which sites will be World Heritage, which sites will be. And we sat there twice, in the span of 2 decades. Debilitating conditions. Of course, we witnessed the terror attack, the World Trade, archaeological dig in Iraq, the destruction of Aleppo, Palmyra, Timbuktu, all of this. Now, the whole of Middle East is almost World Heritage in danger because of war. We also have local enabling conditions. Simultaneously, you see that I'm surprised, there are now so many heritage advocates, heritage interest groups. This really surfaced in the last 2 decades. It started with yung nagrarally kami sa High Allied building. And then suddenly na-bulldoze the next day. Then the Heritage Conservation Society was formalized. And then there's a new group, another group, another group. So that's very telling that people are already raising that particular awareness because of heritage. There have been a lot of conservation programs from San Carlos University, UP, UST, University of Northern Philippines. It's relatively year was established in 2009. It became fashionable for local governments to have cultural tourism, heritage tourism, historical tourism. We came up with the Church and State Agreement, Concordat in 2004. Until now, it doesn't have an IRR, implement rules and regulations. So it's still very difficult really to do some regulation regards to church authorities. Now, media definitely contributed. You have culinary heritage, you have culinary tours, you have the Facebook, Throwback Thursday, you have movies like General Luna. Suddenly, everybody's on heritage. Very marketable at heritage. But simultaneously, you also have the contestations. The historic districts were all endangered, like Karkar, Silay, Baclayon, because of the widening of the DPWH. Demolition of the Meralco building, the September massacre, High Alay went down the drain. Visual integrity concerns, Socorro de Manila was big news in 2014. Critical heritage movement. So you had this issue with Casas Filipinas de Acosar, the transfer of the Santos House from Malabon to Antipolo, the Quezon House was transferred from Emadi to Quezon Memorial Circle, the so-called Aquino House in Times, actually still there, but somewhere there are now 2 houses. So hindi mo alam alin ba yung tunay ito. Catastrophes, the whole earthquake. So all of these contributed to a higher level of awareness, attention, appreciation regards our heritage. Because of this, the whole world started to coin different types of heritage. So you have contested heritage, heritage of shame, heritage of the margins, critical, phantasmal heritage, pendular heritage, shared heritage, digital heritage, dark heritage, digital. So all of this, when you don't just confine yourselves to architectural heritage or built heritage. There are just so many heritages now because of the globalization, the new democracies, the mobility of people, tourism, over-tourism, super diversity, you have big words. And that's why very often, yes, we're very good at doing documentation. At the end of the day, how does this figure in the overall equation of all these developments? No? So just be aware of this, that there are certain types that doesn't really look like heritage, like, for example, pedular heritage. This is the heritage of the OFWs. You know, when they bring something with them. They bring their objects. No, ang mga Ilocano, they bring their bala. No? Ang mga typical taga-Cavite, may dala silang Krispy Kreme. Hindi may dala ng Jayco. No? May dalang bote nila sa pagkulong. When they return, they all have something. They have detergents, meron silang daya, Kailax, Irish Spring, yung tuwalya, yung kumot, no, from Walmart. So, these moves, these are movable heritage. No? They come and go. You have critical heritage. Critical heritage is when you see heritage before it's very scientific. You have to do conservation, pain based, it's material based. No? This is heritage, then you look for the science. Are you a wood expert? Are you a chemist? Are you a material or mortar expert? So that's that. But now heritage is the object, the overall overarching concept now is how does heritage figure in poverty alleviation? How does it figure in tourism? How does it figure in town planning? How does it figure in terrorism? How does it figure? All of this you have to understand, you know, how all of these little heritages you have would figure in a bigger scope, in a wider arena, bigger discourse. So let's look at that area of development. There have been many phases of development concepts in the whole world. No? From the traditional concept of when you develop, you just pour in capital, and then the whole city will develop. Then it moved, development should start from farming, agriculture, then industry, and then service. Then it also moved to that idea, no. Development should have a wider scope. You should have the trade amongst countries. And now development is more of the sustainable part. It should be capability-based, knowledge, information, partnership, and coordination. That when you diagram it, look at all this interaction. It's action, reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction. Just look at the last part. The first decades after the war, it's really economic development. Your country should be very rich. That's when you are developed. You should really have all people having food on their tables. But it moved on to quality of life in the 70s and 80s. We're poor, but we're very happy with what we have. We still have our education, we still have our traditions, and eventually the people from the natural side requested, you have a good quality of life, but the whole forest got lost. Naubos yung toothpick, nagkaroon. It's just that. It had to be sustainable. But now, it's moving towards more of a people-centered type of development. It's their capability. You're only as good as the opportunities given to you. So, I'm very glad that finally you have this much people, trying to ride on this wave of heritage, conservation, heritage build-up. And that's very important. Very often, these two concepts would clash. So, the heritage versus development type. So, when you look at here, visual integrity, actual demolition. So, this is high alignment. This was in 2000. This beautiful, streamlined modern architecture that suddenly was bulldozed off and nothing was built because the president was impeached. Natangay niya yung budget na 800 million built the substitute building here. Exactly on the same side, ang tumubo naman yung Torre de Manila. So that happened in 2000, by 2014, a building moved up and there was this issue on visual integrity. The question here was, yes, we have all the guidelines, but apparently we don't have any law regarding visual integrity, visual profiling, visual sight lines. That was the line of the Supreme Court. There was nothing for you to hold on with regards to the protection of the sight lines. This is another issue, objects. This is movable heritage, object-related issues. Parisha in life, this was a painting that was bought for 6 million by the GSIS. That raised whole furor all public school teachers rallied against this painting. Diba? Actually, this painting is just 21 inches by 33 inches. And per square inch, it's 67,000 pesos per square inch. So that was really flabbergasted talaga. Your flummoxed by that kind of amount. So you also have this issue about the boceto of this Polario, so that appeared in last year's auction, and even the selling of all these important letters. No, very, very germane, very, very integral to Philippine history. What laws do we have regarding that? Even though we document all of this, so what kind of safeguarding protocol should we follow? Are there initiatives with regards to protocols on how we should conserve and safeguard it? These are global heritage. These are things that you can see inside our museums, but the museums themselves are a little straitjacketed by the fact that they really have nothing to hang on, no, with regards to all this conservation. This is intangible heritage. So this is the issue on one wall. No? When she was invited by SciTem to talk, and suddenly she was so sleepy, she dozed off the whole afternoon. Even this one, the Christian Louboutin bags, no? What intangible heritage safeguarding measures do we have? Why do we raise the furor with regards to the usage of all these mixed patterns in international brands? How far should we have a say with regards to the use of our heritage? Those are concerns. Because heritage, of course, documentation is there, but as our previous speakers told us, they're good. They may be your endpoint, but at the same time, remember, all these beautiful renderings, they should be used, they should be utilized. This is good. It reminds us of our identity, but at the same time, how do you make them in a more meaningful context of the contemporary? You have to live your heritage, or else you can museumize that. No? So, these are church-related issues. Ito, very familiar kayo. This is Kalumbi Church, the church that looked like a Goldilocks cake. I think carried away yung pari dito. Hindi niya alam kung gusto niya talaga. Gusto niya talaga yung icing yata. Then you also have this horrific, castration of this San Joaquin Church. And this was a treasure hunting activity by the parish priest. All the while they thought there was a carnival happening in the next town, and actually it was all these big lights that were trying to zoom, excavate. They reached around 10 meters deep. It was already like a mining tunnel. This happened around 2003 when the truss system of the Lourdes Cathedral was taken down because a small piece fell on one Sunday, and the priest decided to, inaaday na kami, babagsak na yung kisame, change! Pinalitan niya ng A-frame. Can you imagine? So, mas mabigat pa yung pinalit nila samantala you have all these centuries old wood. And of course, recently the Save the Patriot is also that very simple architecture in found the Zerrudo Cathedral. They were able to save this, but they still have other things to contend with, like that high-rise building coming up behind the Capitol. Road infrastructure. This is a staple. Lagi ko tayo may ganito. So road widening, almost bulldozed this beautiful bandstand with Honda in Calcal. So Calcal saved it. Baclayon, they wanted to widen Baclayon in the early 2000s. The community saved it also. Even Silay really barricaded the main road, to stop the entry of the DPWH people. Now for roads, this is the Oluga archaeological site in Cagayan de Oro. This also became a very popular controversy. They were able to put up the bridge. They destroyed the mound, the midden, the shell midden, and every time people pass by the midden, they get their own blue and white shards, they get their beads, they get portions of the skull, portions of the bones. So they became archaeologists on their own. So can you imagine what would happen to your narrative, your history, when half of the evidences are gone? No? So I think it's well established that when you do recording for your heritage, you do, of course, the recording, the codification, the archival research, archival documentation. You also do the physical documentation. Physical documentation very often, if it's in the field, it's archaeological. This is basic. This is physical evidence. That's very important. And the oral documentation will be your interviews. So that was one that's highlighted by architect Nogena. But that's the least. The interviews will often have its own skewed interpretation about history. Bridges. We have tons of issues regarding bridges. So these are the Tayabas bridges when they tried to cement it. And also even this bridge project, which is, hindi naman natutuloy ang bridge eh. But the other side will say, hindi natutuloy ang bridge. You go to the other side, hindi natutuloy ang bridge. So, you know for a fact na I think it's a great divide. The bridge doesn't connect. It divides. Ito lang yung bridge na nagdi-disconnect. So, this is still ongoing. It's still an issue, and we know for a fact that it will be there. It will happen. But it will all be a reminder of, up to now, we don't really have a very strong protocol. Even I think policymakers, they should know their mandate. I think the basic mandates are there, but it's just really, there's just so much accommodation and to all these systems, and you really have to impress on them the value of why you're doing all of this. Now, we saw a lot of identification of buildings, documentation of buildings. For any heritage, I think when you talk of value and significance, you can look at Fredheim and Kalak. This is a very, very simple but very logical way of identifying, is your heritage building of value or of significance? First, define exactly what are you talking about. Is it a building? Is it a cemetery? Is it a plaza? Define the form, define the contents of the form, and the relationships to those contents. Then look at those aspects of value. Associative, what's the history? Sensory, is it aesthetic? Evidentiary, is there something scientific? Functional, what are its uses? Ito usually ang lumalabas sa kanila types of significance and heritage. Then finally, what's the quality of that kind of value? Is it outstanding? Is it authentic? Is it rare? Is it in good condition? So very often, you gather so much data, you get overwhelmed by the data. Hindi mo na alam gagawin mo sa data mo. You don't even know where to start, and where to end. You just keep on gathering data, but you have a system na I'll look at first the form. What's the form? Relationship practices. Then you move on, move down the line. Because often many of the charters will tell you, start first with physical investigation. Look at the building, details, ornamentation, diba? Study the mortar, study the chemical analysis. At the end of the day, dami-dami ng data. Because of that, one aspect of looking at built heritage structure or any heritage would be this authenticity thing. This is a big word. It is one whole year of study. There's an authenticity text book released by ICROM recently. There's the authenticity of Philippine context. That's there, very, very fresh. Now, this definition of authenticity is a function of the following aspects. So, kung mga sa calculus, it's a function of, look at this. This was forwarded by Japan. Initially, the Western concept was only up to where material and substance, form, design, use, and function. But Japan, after 1994, because of the NARA document of authenticity, said, well, the Japanese would still look at the authenticity, even though you don't have original material or substance, but you still have location and setting, management, intangible, all those types. And all of this will impact on your authenticity. Any intervention you do to your building, the moment you touch on any of this, it will impact authenticity. So it depends on how far you're going to intervene with your building. So when you look at the definitions, the moment you change original form or design, you are touching on either maintenance, repair, or change. The moment you do touch on function and use, you will be changing original use, compatible use, and adaptive use. So this is a range, no? Okay na? Kaya na. Mas marami pa yan. Joel, nandiyan na. Okay. I'll just look at like 4 interventions. So, ito, okay, intervention building, you do your preservation, restoration, reconstruction, and development. All of these work out on the Bora chart. But it's very simple. So, preservation is maintenance. You don't do anything, no? Restoration, it's a repair. You take the original, you bring back the original. Reconstruction is a repair. You take out the original, you change it to another material. Redevelopment is a repair. No, it's more of changing already not just the form, but even the function. So, if you do P, R1, R2, R3, this is what happens. No? For material and substance, if you do preservation, you still have a very high authenticity of the original material. But the moment you move down the line, it changes because approximately it's compatible material. For form and design, preservation, original form, it gets reformed, it gets deformed. No? For use and function, original use, adaptive reuse, misuse. The higher form is original use, compatible use, adaptive reuse, misuse. May pagkakaiba pa yan na compatible use and adaptive reuse. When you do technology and technique, traditional technique, appropriate technique, disruptive technique. When you do location and setting, in situ context, off situ context, babagsak. Visual integrity, it should be visual distortion and then visual obstruction. No? So, Torre de Manila is more visual distortion. No? It's not just obstructed, but it's distorted. You have management, governance, you have traditional management, transitional management, you have mismanagement. Language and expression, you use native language, evolving language, and state language. For example, before you use Comedor. No? When you do your drawings in the architectural plans, Comedor, this is the entresuelo. But now you don't use that. You have totally changed. You have the living room, you have the sala, you have the atrium, you have the lanai. Diba? Ibang-iba na yung language. Wala na yung traditional language. Magiging extinct na siya. Intangible association, original practices, but practice, no practice. Then you have spirit of the place, you have the original ambiance, simulated ambiance, no ambiance. This one, the simulation, very often conjures up something like a prosthetic memory. That's a new word. It's prosthetic. You're trying to conjure up something. Parang Las Casas. You're trying to prosthetize. And there's a memory here. No, it's a plaza. So, but you know, it really puts out to our toes because that kind of paradigm is something that would really propagate in the near future. No? If we're not very good at how we do our conservation work, we don't have the protocols, we have very loose laws regarding conservation, that will be another trap. No? So kahit nakaka-advocate natin, kung wala talaga tayo means, no, really to arrest and provide good practices, good examples. I'm very, very appreciative for, some of our experts, our specialists sharing their studies here and drawings, because we've noticed the moment you go to our national agencies, you could barely eke out any information. You won't see any drawing. When I saw the drawings kanina nila, Sister Ramirez, some experiences of architecture, that's something else. Because even though we ask national agencies, this is not something, and maybe they have their own policies there, but the industry will only grow if we really have enough basis for research, enough basis on how should we study all of this. Maybe their approach, maybe it was not to our liking, but how did they come up? What's the decision-making process? What's the logic behind that decision? That's more important. It's not whether companion. Ano ba yan? Cake ba yan? No? Baka mamaya may ari ka Goldilocks. Diba? So, You total all of the 10, it would total this way, no? High authenticity, medium, and low. Integrity, high, medium, low. Interpretation, high, medium. Interpretation is how will you tell the story of your whole heritage, of your whole site. Interpretation is, it's always like this. The moment heritage becomes performative, especially intangible practices, representations, expressions, knowledge, systems, the moment become performative, you cannot apply the word authenticity. You only apply the word authenticity to form, material, substance, no? Very Western. But for the 2003 convention, the moment you do a performative heritage, it can be high in integrity, but you cannot say it's authentic. No? Each one, like, pakbet na lang. When you say pakbet, you cannot say if it's Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, Abra, Pangasinan, you're all pakbet. Aber, it's a generic one, but there's no exact pattern, exact weaving, exact seam, exact magkakaiba yan, but they're all aber. So, it's more of representativeness. It's not, you cannot compare them to each other. That's heritage. So cost curve, this is something critical that was impressed on us. The moment you have a good maintenance program, a good conservation program, costs really come down. You do not wait for the whole building to collapse. You do not wait for the whole building na anayin ka sana. You do not check on the wiring, the mechanicals. You do a regular checkup, then you have lower cost, and then you are able to prolong the life of your structures. So this is the one without maintenance, this is the one with maintenance. CMP, this is another big word. Every time you do conservation work, you start out with a CMP. But you know, this word only emerged siguro mga 2000, 2005. You know, all throughout the early years of the Monuments and Sites Committee namin sa museum, we never heard of this word. But when they surfaced, it was like the Bible. Before you do any intervention, you do a CMP. And when you do a CMP, it's a build up. You cannot chop like, he will do physical evidence, you do oral, he does statement, he does constraints. It's not like that. You turn over a data, he builds on your knowledge. You turn over data, he builds on your knowledge. It's a build up. It's not disjointed. It's not a research that you can cut up. Chapter 1, ikaw, chapter 2, ikaw, chapter 3. Utang na loob. Pagdating sa conclusion, this ang aabutin mo. Susume. So, you can just imagine when government, please note, there's no entry in the books of COA for CMP. They only have one word, feasibility study. So, now it's such a big word, many of our national agencies regard that you should have a CMP before you do intervention and build. So, just to temper them down, ang CMP is the same as feasibility study, it's the same as detailed engineering study. So, but no, in the policy, that's when CMP would decide if you would need a detailed engineering study and or a feasibility study. Magkakaiba ho yan. When you say CMP, this is the value, these are the values of your building. These are the issues and constraints. You combine them. What will be your decision points? Diba? It's historical, yes, but now it's encroached by squatters. What will be your decision point? You combine the two. This is the tree. Nasa gitna siya ng highway, nag-expand. What will be your decision point? That's your policy. So, constraints, issues, values, combine. What will be your decision point? No? So, that's critical. Kaya nga build up siya. Every time you evaluate a project, look at not the final output, look at how they decided step by step. No? And it will tell you exactly, we need a DES. DES will tell you the structural soundness of the building. Will it be able to survive physically, structurally, Tama ba yung bakal? Meron pa bang ano dyan? Can it survive the building code? Does it accommodate the current building code? Is it energy efficient? No? So all of these lalabas sa detailed engineering study. But it will not tell if it will survive organizationally, functionally. So you have to do a feasibility study. The feasibility study will tell you how will it be able to market itself, no, against other buildings. What will be the organizational setup? No? What will be the niche, the technology required to make it, to run that whole building? Magkaiba pa yun. So, I'm sure all of you are aware with the Metropolitan Theater.
Yes.
So that big theater, talagang it started off at the wrong footing talaga. No? So para bang, nagkaroon na ng project manager, wala pang project. Paano yung ma-manage niya? No? So, there were all these layers that really aggravated. So, it's really a matter of, I think everybody got so excited by that building that they totally lost that roadmap. No? Established that roadmap. So, just look at the different heritages, natural, built, intangible, movable. When you do a conservation or safeguarding plan, there are two words here. When you do a conservation plan, you apply this to nature, to built, and to movable. When you touch on intangible, that's what you call safeguarding plan. You use the word safeguarding for intangible. You use the word conservation for natural, built, and movable. They follow actually the same decision-making process. No? So up to that area of implementation or evaluation. But the strategies, policy formulation, and look at intangibles. It doesn't really have to be outstanding. It has to be representative. This is significant, significant, significant. You can compare these three with other typologies, with their same typology. But this one you cannot compare because it's a community shared heritage. No? And if you look at the millennium, things have changed. No? You cannot go back to the old type or philosophies or concepts of heritage. The traditional heritage movement, originally, it's traditionally looked as very static, but now heritage is very dynamic. It's both product and process. Before heritage was about the past. Now it's everything. No? It's simultaneous, past, present, future, that it emphasizes the intergenerational responsibility. It's a point in time before, you only do a heritage at a particular time. It cannot be, you have to look at heritage as a line in time. From this point, it moves to this point, moves to this. What's the whole narrative? No? It's very dynamic. Content, context now, it's both content and context. Before it's just experts trying to dictate to all of us, this is heritage, this is your national treasure, this is your national important cultural property, this is your national archives, you know, this is your national bookstore. So, lahat na lang national, si national art, si Gamaba, outstanding, decided on by the experts. But now you cannot do that. You need to have lots and lots of community consultations, very participatory. No? So cut across, participatory ka na, interdisciplinary pa. If you have the architect, you have the planner, you have the interior decorator, you have the chemist, you have the physician, lahat, all in. You also have the sources of information are just so varied. Before, traditionally, heritage was object-based kasi museums ang big time dati mga museums eh. But now it's values-based. So, is it historical? Is it architectural? Is it aesthetic? No? Even intangible, it's representative-based. Heritage was counter-development before. Now we're trying to put heritage in development. No? But now we're trying to push further that heritage, it's a heritage-driven development. Development only happened because you have such a very high concern for your heritage. So yun yung mga bagong. Now this one is another development diagram that if you look at development as it is, you have the capitals, the factors of production, and then you should have an economic value at the end. For us, heritage practitioners, you should know your significance, you document, you look at the histories, eventually you conserve it for the future. What's the future value of that? You combine the two, this is your heritage mapping. So this was mentioned time and again, that you identify first for the community the important heritage resources. For your building, what are the important parts of the building, the structure, the morphology, the technology. You map out things that eventually, how will you use it? The key here is, yes, you were able to do research. That's awareness. You deepen that awareness as appreciation, you protect that until you're able to use those set of knowledge, those set of skills, in the everyday. The highest form of conservation is actually utilization. It's the use of this heritage in the everyday. So, but many mayors, medyo kulang sa oras, binabaliktad namin minsan ang proseso. What do you want first? Do you want a globe? Is it the church and vicinity? Is it the municipality? What globe are you trying to come up with? We'll try to layer it. Is it church sector type of utilization, education, tourism? These are the things that you have to look for. Then these are the things that you have to map out. The other one was you map out first and eventually you think of the next project up to the next stage. This one, what is the end goal of that project? Balik pa rin mo. Then you try to sift out what are the details for you to realize the particular project. Binaliktad lang. No? And when you look at the laws, legislations, heritage policies of the Philippines, these are the themes. No? Spanish period is more of functional restoration. American, erection of monuments, Republic, identifier sites. Now, you have Heritage Law 10066. No? So, there are themes for every era. The Marcos era was really the most lahat na lang. I-declare mo na i-declare. At lahat PB 260. No? So, katabi ni Rice Terraces, si San Agustin Church, si San Sebastian Church. Sino mag-aayos nito? Bahala na, basta lahat sila. Hindi bahala na ngayon kung sino nag-aayos sa kanila lahat. So, there was the drive to protect our heritage, but there was really no structure, how to work it out. It's only now tayo ang nag-carry on ng burden na yan to untangle everything and really to put really good protocols to our heritage conservation. So, if you're going to have a charter, like I think now they're still doing a charter, but we're going to come up with our set of principles for heritage. I think it's very important. First, define your terminologies. The terminologies internationally are very, very mature. You know, kanina yung ibang heritages ko, heritage of the invisible, heritage of the pendulum. Those are very international terminologies. But if you pit those terminologies against our local terminologies, what do we have? Principles. You have the policies, national laws, international conventions. But locally, what belief systems do we have with regards to our heritage? No. For terminologies alone, contested na yan because Ifugao, they don't have a term for authentic. No? The Maranaos, they have a word for heritage like Pusaka, but they don't also have a word for authentic. So authenticity is not something they are concerned. Authenticity for them is authentic because it's transmitted. That line for the next generation is very critical. That in itself is heritage. That in itself is authenticity. It's passed on. No? So these are thoughts, principles. So what are the practices? How do you execute those set of principles? We have tons of those. Value assessment, impact assessment, conservation plan, safeguarding mechanism, we have. But locally, what traditional practices do you have? And how will you meld these two together? Then finally, when you have a practice, you should have set a code of ethics. We have a code of ethics for museums na hindi naman nasusunod. What more sa buildings? What more sa bidding? What more sa contracting? Disaster na talaga. No? So, these are eye-openers that when you do heritage theories, you translate this to the practice. So, Joel does practice, many of you do practice. Sometimes you realize, parang lahat na lang, anything goes. But there are actually certain steps, certain guides, no, for us to uphold. Because, remember, this is a profession. Not everybody can practice heritage conservation. There's such a thing as a heritage professional. There are certain proficiencies and competencies Iba ang competency ng architects, iba ang competency ng urban planners, iba ang competency ng chemists, no? Iba ang competencies ng wood experts. No? So, these are all these competencies, and we should have certain ethics in the practice of all this. So, I think to close my talk, kung gusto, laging may paraan, di ba? Kung ayaw, ang dami ng dahilan. So, I think for heritage, you have to remember, it's a process. You say it's a process, there will always be ways on how to execute this process. But we have to be mindful of certain milestones, certain guides, no, to ensure that it's a noble profession. Nobility is more of, nobleness is more of the integrity of the person. When there's nobleness, you also have excellence. Excellence will give quality to the building, give quality to the work. You understand it well. And this is a transformative exercise. You're transforming your heritage, you're also transforming the next generation. You're already paving it, condition mo na yung next generation. These are your values. No? Not only the values of the present people, the present generation, kasi nga for the future generation, meaning you are creating that condition and you are already grounding the set of values for the next generation. That's very important. So with that, thank you very much.